Discover College Soccer is brought to you by Veo. Right now, you can save big on the Veo Cam 3. Upgrade your sports recording setup and save $400 on the Veo Cam 3 when you purchase a minimum 1-year subscription and a tripod. Don't miss out on this limited time offer that ends August 31st. Shop now and capture every moment with precision and clarity. Click on the link below to get your savings. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Gore at Troy University in Alabama. Welcome, Coach.
Welcome. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I got the pleasure of driving through your campus not too long ago. You got a gorgeous school there in Alabama. It was really nice to see some nice people showed us around your really cool fitness center in there with
Okay.
the
Cool.
pool.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty
Oh,
neat.
yeah. The Las Vegas pool. That's what I call it.
That's that's right. Well, we're talking here. It's July 2nd. You're getting ready for preseason or whatever, but I want to rewind it a couple weeks to that famed June 15th date that people have class of 26
Yeah.
folks are always worried about. So how how much how many calls did you make for class of 26s, and just in terms of timeline really
I
over
think
the
we
next
made.
what's
I
that?
think we made something like nine, probably nine. I think we made nine calls.
Okay.
You know, um, we're very picky about who we look at and what we look at. I think it's not worth going and bombarding these kids with so much, and then or talking to a kid where you're like, I think they'll be all right, and then you talk to them and you get them all angst up, and then you're like, then you want to drop them. So it's very very methodical.
So what is then? Talk to me more about your timeline then. So how much 2025 recruiting are you doing right now versus 2026 in terms of 2 years out, and kind of what do you see as your normal timeline?
The 25, we're probably maybe one spot away from being done, and then 26 is we're not big believers in big recruiting classes. I think it becomes problematic. So and again, it's about the right person more than just a person. And so for us, the initial phone calls, and we're like super transparent. We'll tell you the cheat codes, questions to ask coaches, questions that coaches don't like. I was a psych major in school, so um, I know how to catch somebody in a lie and how to ask a question in a lie and then do things like that. So we're super transparent. I think that I will say we're all used car salesperson. You were a used car salesperson at one point. Some of those are honest used car salespeople, and some people will try and sell you a rust bucket and make you believe it's a Ferrari. And it's up to you to sift through all of that crap and see who's honest.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Hopefully more honest than the cheeky ones, but you never know. Everybody's different in what they try to do. Well, you mentioned having small recruiting classes in terms of, you know, not surprisingly, a Division I roster. You got a few international players in there.
Yep.
Um, and I think most people could tell you're not from Alabama with
No,
your accent. So, uh, how much international recruiting are you doing? How much is transfer portal? Is it hard to plan like how many kids are going to leave and why you got to replace them? And what's your thoughts on that?
I think, for me, I in all my stops, I think my recruiting methodology changes. I was at an NAI school in Northwestern Ohio, built the program from scratch. I think my first year with the only team in the country that didn't have one American on it. Everybody was foreign. And then eventually over my 6 years there, we only had two Americans on the team, but was a Final Four team for 4 years straight. Went to two finals, won it. Thank God. Otherwise, I'd still be there trying to chase that, white horse. You know, but then again, it depends on where you're at. And I think the probably the biggest trouble for Troy and having big international recruiting classes would be the location of it. Because yeah, you can say you're an hour and a half from the beach, 2 hours, but if you don't have a car, you might as well be 10 hours from the beach. So it doesn't matter. So, and that's where a lot of people go into new jobs and go, right, I'll just do whatever worked at me at my last school. I'll do it here. And that doesn't always work.
Yeah. No, makes sense. Well, in terms of um, recruiting and finding players on the domestic side,
Yeah.
um, I'm assuming your focus is a lot on ECNL and GA. Are there, I mean, or where do you like to go to look at players? What tournaments do
Um,
you like to see? What does that look like for you guys?
it's going to all places really and looking at it and again finding the right fit. There's you can go watch ECNL and you can have players that have been on the team since they were 8 years old and today they're a paying customer. So just because they play on a really good ECNL team doesn't make them a really good player. They're a paying customer on an 18 player roster. And as you know, with your daughter, the older they get, those rosters become smaller and smaller and smaller because people leave, people get fed up with it. So then you need some furniture pieces if somebody's willing to pay the money.
Yeah. Well, what about camps? Do you guys do your
So
own
we
ID
we
camps?
we do ID camps, you know, again, for me, the we probably break around 15 or 20, which I like. And I'm not, again, if I wanted to make money, I'd definitely not be in this industry because it's like, I don't know how people go to ID camps where there's 100, 150 kids. I can tell you straight off the bat, you're not getting looked at. Like especially if you're in like kind of a mid-major level player or Division 2 player, those, camps at the bigger schools are put on for the one or two kids that they really want to be able to talk to, Um, so we got ID camp at the end of this month, the 27th, 28th of July. And I think right now we're sitting at like kind of 15 for both of them, which again is great, for it gets us to really look at, some of the players. We had a player that we signed for this class, Sophia Sasson. She was from played at Alabama FC. She came to our ID camp, and within the first hour, the players said to me like, "We need to sign this girl," and I'm like, "Okay, why?" Because I don't want to play against her. I'm like, "Okay," but again, it could easily get lost in the shuffle. Because again, sometimes you can. It's hard to see the forest through the trees.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Well, besides having your players tell you they don't want to play against a player, what are you looking for in a player? Kind of what makes up that hierarchy of on the field and off the field attributes?
I think for me, the first thing we look at is your work rate. Are you a blue collar player? Sunbelt's a blue collar conference. You need depth, you need ability to work. Um, Obviously, then the intangibles. How are you athletic? If you're not that athletic, are you a really good soccer player? Can you think the game? You know, I'm a big believer in, anybody can run, not everybody can move, because movement takes thought process, Um, so are you great at moving off the ball? Because that will make you look quicker because you're trying to see the game ahead of itself. And again, your attitude, how you deal with things, how, if do you pout? Do you like bark back at your teammates in a very snappy way when you get subbed off? What's your body language? When you're getting subbed back on, how are you? Things like that. For me, are the intangible things.
Okay. Well, let's talk more about the school. You know, I think there's probably folks who don't even realize Troy's in Alabama. So
Yeah.
you guys are in the Sun Belt, but talk to me about, what do you find as kind of the awesome things about the school, the things you enjoy the most, maybe some things we wouldn't even know through the website.
Um, the thing I always tell people is so the AD called me to interview um a day after we lost in the semi-final of our conference, where it's one of those games where we battered the other team and they used the headwind better than we did. So I wasn't in the mood to interview with anybody. I was still very salty. And he's like, just come and look at it. And when I come to campus, I couldn't believe how beautiful it was. But how bad the team was. It made no sense. Um, but it's for me, you don't know it's here because it isn't just off the interstate or anything like that. Um, but it gives you it's a walkable campus. It's still a good walk. It's not an easy, not a two building walk by any stretch, but it's so pretty. It's no matter where you go on campus, it's pretty. You know, the rolling hills of it, the golf course down, but it's definitely blows you away. And the and that comes from our president and his wife, aesthetically. I always think, the if you look at Auburn, Troy's a smaller version of Auburn architecturally. It very looks very similar to me.
Yeah, I can attest that's very true. Very, very gorgeous campus, kind of that small college town vibe,
Yeah.
but not too small, right? Exactly.
No,
I
no,
think
it's not. Yeah, it's not
exactly.
where you're going to go to one building for 4 years for the rest of your life, you
No.
know. But then again, I always say to kids that, they want to, I want to go to school with 30,000 people. I'm like, great, but your junior year, you're going to go to one building, to three classrooms, to four professors. Like, that's it. And that will be your group. But it's the good thing is you don't have to, we have a little bus system, but you need it if you're running really late, but again, it's a nice walk. It's not an awful humongous where you have to get across campus in 15 minutes, which is going to be impossible.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk about the academic side of things. That can be sometimes a struggle for new student athletes coming into the college environment, balancing the demands of a Division I soccer program and their academic side. So, what kind of support systems does the school have in place to make sure that the kids are successful both in the classroom and on the field?
So what I like about Troy is that pretty much, um, there's a building right next to the football stadium, which is like maybe 150 yards from our facility, where it's a one-stop shop. So we have the Olympic weightlifting room at the bottom, athletic training second, and then the third is the academic center. So again, you haven't got to run all over campus to go from one place to another. So every student has their own academic advisor, but an athlete, you get your athletic academic advisor. So you get two people really. Our one just basically blocks off a time when we practice. They schedule you with student athlete friendly professors. We know that's a thing. Um, you know, but also, it helps in terms of, like, we have a mandatory 6 hours for freshmen for study hall for the year. And then you get a 3.0 and you can get yourself out of study hall jail. Any player upperclassman drops below a 3.0, you're going back into study hall jail. So for the year. But again, it's like the thing I like about our academic center is, for the kids out there that doesn't know what a NARP is, a non-athletic regular person. If you had a group project, you can take them up there. So you don't have to fight with the library for a space or one of those conference rooms at the library. You can take them up there behind the curtain kind of thing. And we always tell the kids there's free printing, there's free Wi-Fi. Free printing is a big thing in any school, you know, because you're gonna have to turn in papers and no one wants you to buy paper.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Well, let's fast forward to October, part of your conference season. Kind of talk to me about what's a normal schedule going to look like for a player in terms of classes, meals, practices, game cadence, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, it's full go. You at that point you're just trying to bandage yourself back up. Mondays are normally our off day, always our official off day. Tuesday's probably the hardest practice we can have because we play Thursday, Sundays, and with the Sun Belt, we don't ever play real home and home. It's you're home or away and home. So you've got to travel in there. Everybody's got to travel in there every week. So really Tuesdays is really, our hardest practice. Wednesdays prep for game, Thursday's game, Friday's either off or recovery. Saturday's prep for game, Sunday's game. I think most schools, don't matter whether you're Brian Penske at Florida State or you're a different conference. At that point, you're just trying to hide your weaknesses and push your strengths. At that point.
Yeah. So when do you guys train? Afternoon, mornings? What do you like to
So
do?
we train in the mornings because, as you know, in the south, there's going to be a thunderstorm. It's going to be in the afternoon. I think our football team had something like over 30 practices last year cancelled because of thunderstorms. So they're building a brand new indoor outdoor roof here shortly on one of the football practice fields. So for us, it gets you up in the morning, it gets you going. No professor's ruined your day just yet, or no class has kicked your butt yet, or an exam. Um, so for the freshmen, incoming freshmen, they're probably going to start their day at like 11 or 12, be done by 3 or 4. It then allows you to, if you want to do a one-on-one with one of the coaching staff, like you get to do that in the afternoon. You get to come, you want to do some film, you could do that. When I got here, we practiced in the afternoon, and I always felt some of the girls would be like, "Hey, I want to stay and do some extra, but I got to go home. I got to eat. I got to shower. I got to study. I want to have a bit of a social life." So if I do that, next thing you know, it's going to be 6:30, 7:30 by the time I finish here, and then it's like I can't do it. So it's moving it to the morning. I think just does make life balance a bit easier for them. It's getting harder and harder for them, with their work life balance and stuff like that. And I will say that for me, it's a their life balance is a fluctuating bar chart. When you're in soccer, soccer goes up, everything comes down. When you're in school, school goes up, everything comes down. The only thing that probably doesn't move as much as you want it to is your social life bar. That never really moves that much.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the team. I know in the coming months there may be some changes to soccer rosters and other sports rosters, but for now,
Yeah.
what kind of roster size do you like to see that you're trying to hit each year?
So we have 26 lockers, so I want one bot per locker. Bigger the roster, bigger the problems. I think a lot of coaches will tell you with what's possibly coming down the pipeline. I think a lot of people will like it. Um, but for me, when you have a roster of 30, 32, 36, you know, we've got girls that are transferred from rosters of 42, you know, it's impossible to keep everybody happy, and then misery loves company, and it's difficult. And also we live in a day and age now where being honest is being negative, and everybody thinks their kid is a superstar, you know, but it's not always the case. And sometimes it's not always the fit. It's you know, it's Phil Foden's best player in England right now and struggling in international football. So even it happens to the best players in the world that sometimes it's the fit of the dynamic of the way the team plays just doesn't fit you. So, it's trying to find that balance.
Yeah, for sure. Well, besides a roster of players, you got a staff roster. So talk to me about your staff. What role does everybody play? Maybe what other support staff are in the athletic department that help out with the team?
So obviously, we have Eric. Eric's my associate coach. He's our goalkeeper coach. He's not mine. He's ours. I also hate the word "my" because I don't own them. They're not people. I don't. They're people. Um, but Eric's our head recruiting coordinator. He's the yin to the yang of me. Eric worked in the private sector for a long time, so he ran a multi-million-dollar company. So he's very knowledgeable on how to things run. But also, what I like about Eric is we're one of my best friends, but he also will sit in the office and go at me with things, or you know, I don't want to be the dumbest smart person in the room. I really don't. I want people to have an opinion. But Eric's great at great recruiter. Obviously, his daughter's a 2026, so she's going through this process right now. So um, that's great to see. And then obviously with Kayla's a very high level player. She plays in practice now. She's still the best player, Kayla Sager. Great soccer mind, knows the game inside and out. Great working with our forwards. The girls really respect her because again, she recruited NC State when West Virginia finished at Binghamton. But she's one that she coaches within the coaching sessions. She does a micromanaging of coaching that way. Um, but she's, I think the girls are more scared of Kayla than they are me, that's for sure.
Well, that's all right. Well,
And
what
then
about you?
so me, I'm I think I have to change to whatever suits the team at that time. I tell recruits all the time, me on the field and me off the field are two different people. Me on the field, I hate losing more than I love winning. Off the field, I'm very stereotypically British. I'm very sarcastic. You can make fun of me, I'll make fun of you. Um, if you come into the office, I'll talk to make your ears bleed because I want to get to know the person. It's not about just a soccer player, it's about the person. Um, on the field, um, very like guided discovery, ask questions, probe, you know, um, the way I don't talk half as much as I do in the office, I do on the field, which I think the girls are happy for because then I don't stop the session all the time. I don't really want to hear myself talk. I want to get in and out in 45 seconds when I coach.
Okay. Well, we just wrapped up kind of the spring season or non-traditional season, whatever you want to call it. So, what does your guys' spring typically look like?
Obviously, coming here and taking over a program that wasn't in great shape at all and having to change that and move that on. The last two springs have been difficult numbers wise. But then again, you get to work individually and technically on things. So we're coming out of that. Um, this coming spring will be interesting because we've got 7 25s and five of them are going to come early, which is great. I would recommend that to anybody. I know your high school senior year spring is the greatest thing ever to you. In the grand scheme of your life, it won't mean anything. But it gets you a head start. It gets you to learn. I think it gets you to learn all the cheat codes to the coaches. You get to play in spring games without the pressure of like, if I don't perform, I might be out of the team. So I will say to recruits, like, if your first ever college game is against Florida State, the best team in the country, how are you going to feel? They're like, oh, I'm going to feel really nervous. But if it's in spring, you're not going to feel you're going to feel nervous, yes, but it's not do or die. It's not the end of the world if you have a nightmare, you know. Um, so for us, spring is trying to look at things, what we need to implement, what we need to slowly change. I think I think a lot of coaches, especially in new programs, go in and try and change too much and implement their style straight away instead of like going, what do we have? And then slowly transitioning it to what you want.
Okay. Well, Coach, I appreciate your time. Got one last question for you. You talk about uh, Coach Eric's daughter, my daughter, these class of 26 folks, these any prospective student athlete that's out there, kind of what advice would you have for those folks that are going through this process?
Oh, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. The you know, the the pace setter doesn't always win the race. And a lot of times they don't. For me, you know, don't get enamored by you know the lure of Power Five if you're going to play. Um, honestly, you know, your scholarship offer will determine how much the coach sees you playing. If you get a book scholarship at Power Five, in my personal opinion, and Power Five coaches would disagree with me, you're going to be a really good practice player. And ultimately you want to play. If you want to win, if you happy to go be a player on a roster and really be a great cheerleader and great teammate, then by all means. The people make the place. The place will never make the place. You can go to the beach and you don't like your coaches, don't like your teammates, you're going to leave. You know, um, I was at a school in Northwest Ohio, an AI school. I have players that now still play. I have a girl who's the Czech Republic national team captain. She plays for Sia. She would not have left because she would turn around to you and go, I can't leave my teammates. I love my teammates. You know, I mean, she should play on a top 25 school in the country in Division One, you know. Um, but it's the people that make it for me, and I think that's the thing when you go on your visits like get around the team, like be around the team, figure them out, figure they're your type of people, whether you want them. How do they um associate themselves with the freshmen? You know, are they very standoffish with them? Does the freshman talk to the upperclassmen? That will show you what you're probably going to go into. Because normally what happens is the freshmen that don't get spoken to, when they become sophomores and juniors, they just do the same thing. They're like, well, it was done to me, so I do to others. And again, are you going to want to be with these people? People will say, like, oh, if soccer finished, could you see yourself being at that school? I always think that's a bit of you know, a two-headed snake, because normally you would then just go, if you're out of state, you would just go back home to a state school and it would cost your parents a lot less money to go to school. So if for me, it's about the people. Can you be with these people every day, outside of the school itself, and outside of the name of the school? Do you like these people? Do you want it that some of these people going to go to your wedding? Do you want them to go to your wedding? You know, you know, and that's the crux of it for me. It's most play. I've won national championships, and if I sat with my players and asked them questions about that season, they tell me all this fun stuff that happened off the field, not actually about that game or the run into that game. It's about the friends they made, the stories they have, and all those things.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Coach, I really appreciate it. Wish
No
you
problem,
the
man.
best of luck this fall season, and I think I'm looking forward to coming up and checking out at least
I
your
can't
first
wait to meet you
exhibition game.
three-dimensionally. Yeah,
Yeah, fantastic. All right, thanks, Coach.
I appreciate it, mate.